Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wednesday, January 26, 2022 meeting of the Lake Havasu City Board of Adjustments. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Donald Bergen.
Here.
Kevin Casey. Michael Gordon.
Here.
Robin Hill.
Here.
Martin Toomey.
Here.
And Jim Harris.
Here. Okay, let's go to the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections by any of the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Who made the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Toomey and a second by Mr. Casey to approve the minutes as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote. I haven't even signed in yet.
Mr. Bergen.
Yes.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey, it's a verbal vote. Yes?
Mr. Gordon.
Yes.
Mrs. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Toomey.
Yes.
And Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. I don't believe we have any further business, do we? Correspondence and announcements?
We don't have anything scheduled on the agenda, but I do actually have an announcement. In December, there was a boards and commissions workshop that was in Phoenix. We have an opportunity to obtain 3 videos from that workshop that concern boards and commissions. Staff will be emailing you in the next few days links to those 3 seminars or 3 videos from that boards and commissions meeting. So the board, all you as Board of Adjustment members will be able to watch the videos that are from that boards and commissions workshop. So we will email that to you in the next couple of days. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morris. All right, I'm going to start by, this is a public hearing. The structure of the meeting will allow the staff to present an item. The board may ask staff questions, and then the applicant will have the opportunity to present their case. Board members may have questions for the applicant, and then I will open the discussion to the audience. We ask that if you would like to address the board, please do so, but there is a limit of 1 trip to the podium per topic and 3 minutes to speak. I will close the discussion afterwards and bring the item back to staff and ask for their recommendation. The board will then hear a motion and discuss and vote. The first and only item on today's agenda is item number 21-013-00126. This is a request for 761 Chickasaw Lane, tract 2219, block 15, lot 21, for a major variance from Development Code section 14.04.01, table 4.01-1, dimensional standards for residential districts to allow a 5-foot encroachment into the required 20-foot rear yard setback and a 5-foot encroachment into the required 25-foot front garage setback for a new residence in the single-family residential R1 district. Mr. Morris, your presentation.
Mr. Chairman and Board Adjustment members, thank you. The subject property is located at the end of Chickasaw Lane cul-de-sac, near the intersection of Chemehueva Boulevard and Chickasaw and McCulloch Boulevard. The zoning for the property is R1, as is the zoning for all the immediately surrounding adjacent properties are zoned R1 also. The property, the lot size in that immediate area is about, they range in lot sizes from 0.23 to 0.8 acres. The subject property is highlighted here. It's the track map from the area. Here's the Chickasaw Lane cul-de-sac, and this is at the very end of that cul-de-sac. Here's a enlarged version of the setback. Shows the property. It's about 220 feet across the back, 170 down one side, and 98, almost 100 feet down the other side, and then a small area in the front. The property is zoned R1, so the setbacks are all, of course, all measured from the property lines. The front building setback is 20 feet for the house and 25 feet for a garage facing the front of the property. And then its setbacks are 5 feet on each side, and the rear setback is 20 feet. Here's the site plan that was submitted with the request showing the proposed structure. The request is to allow a 5-foot encroachment into the required 20-foot rear setback and a 5-foot encroachment for the garage to encroach into the front 25-foot garage setback. This property is very unique in its shape, and it's not very deep. You'll see it's like I say, 170 feet along one side and almost 100 feet on the other side. But overall, the depth itself is well less than 100 feet or so. The standard for an R1 lot as far as depth is 120 feet, and this is well under that 120 feet in depth. So staff's of the opinion that this is a good candidate for a variance because of the unusual shape of this property. It's, instead of being more of a rectangular shape, it's much more of a triangular shape and not very deep. It's, in fact, its depth, as I've stated, is less than what would be standard for a R1 lot. With that, concludes staff's presentation. Open to any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions of staff by panel members? Mr. Bergen?
As far as,
Go ahead and turn your microphone on. There you go.
Mr. Myers, it still does not. Okay. We're talking about encroachments to the front and the rear of the structure. Do you feel that that has any negative effect on the adjoining the residences?
Thank you for the question. The front is at asking for up to a 5-foot setback encroachment for the garage, which would make it 20 feet from that cul-de-sac. I don't feel that would be a sort of encroachment. I'll go to a previous one here. Let's go to the aerial. So here's the front of the property at the end of that cul-de-sac. It doesn't feel like to me like it'd be any imposition upon any neighboring properties. The rear property, they're asking for an encroachment of 5 feet, but it's only for 2 corners of the new home, the proposed home. So there's the end of the garage and then part of a covered patio. That seems like a very limited encroachment in my mind. The majority of the house, or a lot of the house, will be well within the 20-foot rear setback. It's those 2 corners of the proposed home that will be encroaching. And in my view, that doesn't seem like much of an encroachment from staff's point of view. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff by panel members?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gordon.
Or Mr. Morris, have we granted variances like this for minor encroachments on houses in the past? Like, what's the history of granting this kind of stuff?
Well, as far as variances, there are 2 types of variances that are available. One's called a minor variance, and that's reviewable by staff. A minor variance allows a maximum of a 10% reduction into a required setback, and those could be reviewed by staff. Anything that's more than a 10% reduction would fall under the major variance, which is why this is before you. For something like this, if the applicant had asked for a 2-foot encroachment into the rear 20-foot setback, given the shape of this lot, and that being a minor variance, Staff would recommend approval, would approve a minor variance for this. This is more than a 2-foot encroachment, therefore it falls under the category of a major amendment. And we have not had very many major amendments come before the board, partly because a lot of those are worked out through the minor amendment process. In this case, this lot is really such a shallow lot compared to what is a normal lot that it really is difficult to get any sort of traditional home on this site. I think the applicant's done a good job trying to work within the setback allowances. And so in this case, it's still, despite the minor variance possibilities, the real remedy for this appears to be a major variance. So that's why it's before the board. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't personally have a problem with it. I think we're going to see more of this in the future as we run out of inventory in town. What is left is, there's probably a lot of stuff that has these sort of issues. So I think they did a good job. I mean, sure, you could have done more of a custom home and probably made something fit, but at the same time, having a couple of corners project a couple of feet and the face of the garage project a couple of feet, I don't think has an impact on the neighborhood. So I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Ms. Hill.
Mr. Morris, I just want to make sure I understand the site plan that we have up on the rear corner in the middle of the building that says covered patio. Are we extending beyond the new 15-foot BSL with that corner of the building, or is it stopping at where you're pointing? Is it stopping there, or is it going back farther?
It's stopping here where I'm pointing. It's a little difficult to see. There's a little square there. That's the post for the continuation of this wall, which would be the wall here, so the covered patio. So they're asking for that post to be 15, so basically a 5-foot encroachment for that portion. And then this is the slab of the patio, is my understanding.
So if that roof line is extending, it's a cantilevered roof and it's not, the structure itself is not encroaching. It could be just the roof line.
Yes, an eave may encroach 3 feet into the rear setback as it is. This is for the wall of the structure. That corner post would be no more than 15 feet from the property.
Thank you for clarifying.
At least 15 feet from the property line. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff by members? Okay, is the applicant present? Would you like to make a presentation? Don't have to, but if you'd like to.
No, I'm very appreciative of the time. Thank you.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. I will now open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? Anybody at all? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion and bring it back to the table for staff's recommendations.
Mr. Chairman and Board of Adjustment members, thank you. Staff finds that the size and shape of the subject lot are not typical to others with the same classification, and it rises to the level of special circumstances applicable to the subject property. Staff finds that the special circumstances create an unnecessary hardship which is not the result of the actions of the applicant or self-imposed by the property owner. Staff finds that approving the proposed variance would not constitute a granting of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the vicinity and the zoning district in which the subject property is located. Staff additionally finds that approving the proposed variance would not be materially detrimental to the public convenience, health, interest, safety, or welfare of the city, or injurious to the property or improvements in the vicinity and the zoning district in which the property is located. Therefore, based on the findings, staff recommends that Land Use Action 21-013-00126 for 761 Chickasaw Lane, Tract 2219, Block 15, Lot 21, a request for a major variance from Development Code Section 140401, Table 4.01-1, dimensional standards for residential districts to allow a 5-foot encroachment into the required 20-foot rear yard setback and a 5-foot encroachment into the required 25-foot front garage setback for a new residence in the single-family residential R1 district be approved with the following conditions. Condition 1, the development shall match the site plan submitted with the request, and Number 2, any changes to the site plan shall require additional review and approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morris. We are at the table for discussion and/or a motion, and I'm going to start by echoing some of Mr. Gordon's comments. This is clearly a situation of a special circumstance type lot. It denies the owner the equal use and enjoyment of surrounding properties. It is not going to impact any views. It's a perfect location for something like this at the end of a cul-de-sac. And like what Mr. Gordon said, there are going to be more of these because there's a bunch of these lots out there that what's left over that's not built upon that is very difficult to get any depth out of a project. So for lack of a better term, I think this is kind of a no-brainer. So enough of my edification, pontification, whatever. Anybody else? Discussion and/or a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
Ms. Hill?
I move that land use, excuse me. There we go. I move that land use action 21-013000126 for 761 Chickasaw Lane, tract 2219, block 15, lot 21. A request for a major variance from Development Code Section 14.04.01, Table 4.01-1, Dimensional Standards for Residential Districts, to allow a 5-foot encroachment into the required 20-foot rear yard setback and a 5-foot encroachment into the required 25-foot front garage setback for a new residence in the single-family residential R1 district is approved with the following conditions. 1, the development shall match the site plan submitted with the request. And 2, any changes to the site plan shall require additional review and approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second it.
We have a motion by Ms. Hill and a second by Mr. Bergen to approve item number 21-013000126 with staff's recommendations. Any further discussion on the item? Okay, hearing none, let's call for the question.
Mr. Bergen?
Yes.
Mr. Casey? Yes. Mr. Gordon?
Yes.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
And Mr. Harris? Chairman
Yes.
Harris. Motion passes 6-0.
Congratulations. Okay, this is the point in the meeting where we call to the public. If there's anybody in the public that wishes to speak to the panel on any item whatsoever, this is the time to come forward. Hearing none, we'll close the call to the public and future meetings, Mr. Morris.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we don't have anything scheduled. Next time an item comes up, we will be in touch with you and let you know of the meeting time and date. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you all for coming to participate. We are adjourned.